All right, like I said, thank you very much for attending today. We're going to get started with our presentation. We do have 4 different panelists today to talk to you about housing in Madison. As I mentioned, my name is Allison Streckenbach. I will be the moderator for today's event. I use she, her pronouns, and my position is I am the transitions coordinator on the global engagement team at the ISS, or International Student Services Office. Today, we are having an event through Global Badger Success Series, which is an event series through International Student Services dedicated to introducing international students to different campus offices and community resources in order to help a successful university experience. So today our topic is going to be housing in UW, or housing in Madison. We have 2 on-campus housing professionals here with us today. We do have Alyssa Lamberton, who is the assignment coordinator at University Housing. We also have Andrew Werner, who is the assistant director of resident support services at University Apartments. And we do also have 2 off-campus housing experts with us today. They are Joe Biederman, a panelist who is working with campus area housing, as well as Abby Zellner, who works at LZ Management. So thank you to all 4 of you for being here today. We will hear from all 4 of them today about their areas of expertise. And first up, we have on-campus housing. So Alyssa Lamberton will be going first to talk to you about university housing.
Great, thank you so much, Allison. Again, my name is Alyssa. I am an assignment coordinator here with University Housing. So I work in our assignments office. So in our office, we manage everything regarding room changes, housing contracts, all of the processes for signing up as an incoming first-year student or as a returning student. So we handle all of those logistical pieces for housing. So today, I'm just going to briefly kind of talk about our returning student process and touch a little bit on incoming first-year students, just in case we have any of them in here as well. So just going to kind of briefly talk about some of the reasons why people choose to return. So as you may know, UW-Madison does not have a live-on requirement in any way. So you are welcome to live off campus if you wish to do that for your first, second year, whatever you decide. But some of the reasons that some students do choose to stay on campus, obviously our dining plan options, no need to cook. So you will, if you do choose to sign a contract with us for next year, all students are required to have a dining plan. We do have 3 options for those, and we are on an all you care to eat system as of this year. So the apartments available option is actually no longer a thing that we're able to offer anymore. It was something that we were potentially going to be offering, but Andrew can talk more about the apartment side of things, as we are only dealing with the residence hall side. So, and then better grades and faster graduation is just kind of some of the standard statistics that you see with students who choose to stay on campus longer, having more connections to leadership opportunities, resume builders, those types of things, by being kind of very immersed into campus, not having to worry at all about maintenance type things. Obviously, we have facility staff and just lots of options there for submitting a maintenance request. We also do allow students to do room changes, so you're not locked into the same apartment for the entire year. Instead, you have your space in your residence hall, which we do offer that room change process. And then, of course, our staff that we have 24/7 staff support in any number of issues that may come up, from maintenance and facilities issues to other issues that may come up with roommates, all of those types of things. We do have a significant amount of staff support in our residence halls for students. So those are just kind of some of the reasons why to return. And then I can talk a little bit on the next slide here about what that process looks like. So in terms of the process, that looks different if you're a returning student versus an incoming first-year student. So We are still kind of working through the details, so I don't have a ton of information in terms of dates. We're not quite there yet, but we are getting very close to having that information ready for students. So for returning students, anyone currently living in the residence halls would have an opportunity to be considered for that process. So as of this next upcoming year, we will not be able to allow students who are currently living off campus to come on campus. So if you are currently living off campus right now, you would not be eligible for a contract for 23-24. But if you are currently living in the halls, then you would be eligible to start that process. So we do anticipate that we will be starting this process in late October. Right now, we anticipate starting on October 31st with our notice of intent process, which if you've lived on campus before, you may be familiar with. And then early to mid-November is when we're anticipating actual room selection to start taking place. So there have been, I know, some rumors circulating about, rumors about limiting returning students and rumors about students not being allowed to live on campus after their first year. So can clear some of that information up. So it is not true that students will not be able to return. We have heard those rumors kind of circulating. I'm not sure where they came from, but it is true that we are anticipating a limit to the number of returning students that we will be able to take in order to accommodate for our incoming first year class. So we don't anticipate this is going to be a limit very much different from what we already typically take for our returning students. So we don't anticipate it's going to be a significant drop in our returning student numbers. It's going to be pretty similar to what we typically see each year, but do anticipate in putting that limit. And so you may see some changes to our process that you may not have experienced if you've gone through it before, because we are going to be making some changes to how the process runs because of that anticipated limit to the returning student numbers. We do anticipate having room selection available in nearly all of our halls with some limitations there. So obviously Bradley Learning Community is only available to first year students, so that would not be available to returning students, but we do anticipate selection being available in most of our halls. We are still, again, working through what our spaces will look like next year, if we're going to keep some rooms as triples or if they go to different room types. So we are kind of working through what all of that looks like, and we will notify students in that process what the space looks like, and what things you can expect in terms of building availability. And then briefly, I can touch base on our incoming students here. So if we do have any incoming students here right now or viewing this in the future, just know that if you are a new incoming first year student enrolled at the university, we typically send those contract offers out to students shortly after being admitted. We typically start that in early spring semester. And so if you're an incoming first year student, we would send you a contract offer via email if we are in a space to still offer contracts. Students do not need to commit to the university prior to completing that contract. We typically have a May 1st deadline. And then contract offers to exchange and transfer students are always dependent on availability. So for the past couple of years, because of our increased demand in housing, we have not been able to offer housing to our exchange students or to our transfer students. So typically encourage them to kind of connect with campus area housing to look at off-campus housing options, depending on if we're able to offer those. And so for incoming students, we do offer a lottery process. So we are not first come, first serve, which does mean that you can be assigned to any building or room type, even if you did not preference it. It does happen each year. And we do try to honor as many preferences as we possibly can. But ultimately, we do always see a lot of students requesting the same buildings and room types. So those are kind of the quick info pieces about returning students and incoming students. So for our returners, in the next couple of weeks, you should expect to get an email to your WisStat.edu account with more information about the continuing student process and what changes you're going to see for next year. So it will be very, very important that you read those emails and follow any instructions if you do wish to return to campus, as we will have some tight turnaround times and you will need to make sure that you indicate your interest early on so that we can get you set up in our process. And I believe that that is all for my piece. I think I'm passing it over to Andrew.
Thank you very much, Alyssa. We do have a question in the chat. In terms of the residence halls, is this available for graduate students or is it just for undergraduate students?
So that would be a great question for graduate students for Andrew. So our office, these processes are specifically for our undergraduate students. So the university apartments would have a different process that Andrew would be able to talk about a little bit more.
Okie doke. Thank you very much. Just a little bit about who we are and who lives with us. We are University Apartments. We're on 83 acres and we consist of 3 neighborhoods. Eagle Heights, Harvey Street Apartments, which is right off of University by Bagels Forever, and University Houses. We have a very diverse population, which we'll get into on the next few slides. And the people that live with us and are eligible to live with us are graduate students, postdoc researchers, academic and university staff, families, and limited undergrads. So we have undergraduates living with us now. And in the future, if undergraduates would like to live with us, they could so as a roommate of a graduate student or a faculty or staff, or if the undergraduate has dependents, they could live with us. Next slide, please. And like I said, we have a pretty diverse, and we have residents from 83 different countries. This is from February of 2020, so this might have changed a little bit. But as you can see, majority of our residents from the US, China, India. So we really love having such a big, diverse population here. And that's kind of one of the pluses of living here at the apartments as well. Next slide, please. And this kind of breaks down who we have living with us as well. Almost 2,400 residents. As you can see, there are about 1,300 leaseholders that have UW affiliations and roommates. We have about 530 dependents / children that live with us. And about 500 partners and spouses that live with us that don't have a UW affiliation. And we have 1,200 apartments here. So there are a lot of different options to live here. We have 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedrooms. 1 and 2 bedrooms are open to all, and 3 bedrooms are open to families that have more kids, about 3 plus. It is very easy to apply. You can just go on our website. It's free to apply. And if you are offered something, you're under no obligation to take it. So this is one of the first years, as I think Joe will talk about later, that we are full. Like most places in Madison, we were full this year, which is very good. And also, we still have people on the waiting list. So if this is something you're interested in say January, you want to live here, or even next year, the sooner the better would be good. So, and if you have any other additional questions, we have a lot of information that can't fit in to this presentation, but it is an easy enough process that I can do it. So I know you all can do it. So, and Allison, I think that's all I have.
All right. Thank you very much, Andrew. We will be moving on to our off-campus section. If you do have any questions as we're going through the presentation, feel free to type them into the chat, as we will be monitoring those questions and answering them. There will be time at the end as well to ask any questions from any of our panelists at the end of the presentation. So with that, we are going to move on to our off-campus housing subject matter experts. So first off will be Joe. And Joe, if you would like to share your own screen, I will stop sharing mine and you can pull up your presentation.
All right, it's looking like I'm having trouble sharing here. Host disabled participant screen share.
Okay, I can pull up your presentation, Joe.
Thank
Just give me
you.
1 second.
All right, Allison, could you hit it into full screen mode, maybe, or present mode? It'll probably bring it up fully. Oh,
All right, you may need to tell me where that is.
oh,
I can
I'm not
exit.
sure. I can read it through. I can read it through this way too. Just didn't know if you wanted the notes on there or not, but
Okay, if you want to get going, I will try to figure it out.
sounds great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Joe Biederman. I am the coordinator for the campus area housing program here at UW-Madison. Our program, we are the official source for off-campus housing information. We're housed within campus and visitor relations, which leads a lot of our campus tours, but also our information desks and our information referral programs for the university. Some of our main resources that we have are to help you with your housing search. One of those main resources being our campus area housing website. And on the next slide here, it'll show just a quick overview of what our site there looks like. Allison, could you move it to the next slide, please? Thank you. So as you can see there on the left-hand side, there are listings of available and the scheduled availability of properties in the off-campus area. And when we refer to off-campus housing, we are referring to privately owned housing. It's owned by a landlord or a property manager or property owner who's renting a unit, the full home on the full property to someone who's going to be a tenant there. They're not owned or affiliated with the university, and you would be signing a separate contract called a lease with a property manager to rent that space. So what we advertise on our site are just all private properties that are available for rent. Many of these may be very close to campus. They might be just a short walk, short bus ride, short bike commute to your class or to any of the campus buildings. Some might be a little bit further out, but the difference of when we refer to off-campus housing, it's just that's privately owned, and on-campus housing, then like the residence halls and university apartments would be university-owned housing. On the right-hand side there of the website, we have a map that shows a number of those properties that list with us, as well as some routes. Those are the bus routes, those different colored lines that are going through there. So you can see how close a property might be for commute times. There you can switch through to and do some walk times, and then filter by amenities, whether number of bedrooms that you're looking for, price, kind of move in, move out dates, and just any additional filters that you would like to use. We kind of have a plethora of them on there, as well as a roommates board and a subleases board that you would log into with your net ID if you're searching for a roommate or looking to sublet a place in the future, which I can mention a little bit later, or looking for a place to sublet. Maybe you're looking for just a shorter term lease, and subletting would be the way to go to locate that. On the next slide, we have types of rentals. There's a kind of a variety of types of housing that's in the off-campus and near-campus area. The first being just your traditional apartments. So that might be a unit such as like a studio or 1 bedroom. Typically, these go up to maybe just 3 or 4 bedroom. In these apartment complexes, there's many units within these. It could be 5 to 10 units, or it could be 100 units that are within these properties. And so it's a little bit different experience than, say, living in just a house that's a standalone property that maybe has 3+ bedrooms in it. They can have all the way up to 6 or 7 bedrooms as well in those houses, but they're just standalone. It's going to offer a little bit different living experience. And then there's also housing flats, where it's a house that's maybe has 3 different stories to it, and those different levels have been turned into individual apartments. Could be anywhere from a studio or efficiency or 1 bedroom up to a 3 bedroom typically with those. So each of those different styles is just going to provide a different experience in your living arrangements. There's also some cooperatives or co-ops that are similar to rooming houses. That's room for rent within maybe a larger building or a house, but you're just renting an individual room. There might be some shared spaces such as kitchens, bathrooms, and some other amenities that would be shared then, that are just a little bit different than just renting a standalone or private unit. On our next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about just leases in general. So what is a lease? A lease is a written contract that's going to outline the terms that both you as a tenant and the landlord or property manager are agreeing to. Once you and that landlord sign the lease, you're both legally bound to it. So it's important to read it really carefully and ask any questions that you have before you sign that lease, because once you sign it, you are bound to it. Most of the leases in the near campus area operate on a 12-month kind of mid-August to mid-August timeframe. There are some leases that might just have a academic year length lease, so maybe just a 9 or 10 month. There's lesser of those. Most of them that we see are the 12-month leases. So it's just important to have your plan solidified before you're signing these leases. So if you think, I might not be around for the summer or in the Madison area in the summer, think about what that means for the lease that you're signing. So if you're signing a 9-month lease, you're probably fine because that lease isn't going to overlap over that summer. But if you're signing a 12-month, just know, am I planning to sublet this? That would be someone kind of stepping onto your current lease or taking over some or all of the payments on that, and you'd have a separate agreement with them. The Tenant Resource Center, which we'll mention in a little bit, is a great resource for those sublet questions and those rental rights questions. But when it comes to just timelines of searching for housing overall, we see most of the availabilities on our site really in October, November, December, the most of those being in that October and November time period. We do see them listed all the way through January and into the spring too, but the most amount of availabilities that we see for the next coming fall are listed in that October to December and January timeframe. But reiterating, most of those in the October and November. So we know that that's an early timeline for signing a lease, knowing that in a year or 10 months would be when you would be moving into that place. So just make sure that you have your plan solidified. You know what that next year may look like, or have a good idea of what that's going to look like before you sign that lease. And if you have what your plan set already, that's great. You may have just more amenities and more options that when you look at your priorities of what you're looking for in housing, whether it's location, the additional amenities that there are, you might be able to look at others that might be at the top of your list and meet some of those top priorities instead of having to compromise just on a few if you're waiting a little bit later into the year. For short-term leases, so that would be just like a semester-long lease in the future, if you would need those. There are very limited amount of those. You would want to look really early on in the year to find those, but since there is a limited amount. However, there is the option that to sublet. So someone may have signed that full 12-month lease or an academic year lease, and plans change. They're not going to be in the Madison or the campus area for one or part of the months of that lease. You could jump onto that lease as a subletter and sublet from the original tenant, and might be able to save a little bit on rent depending on what it looks like and what's drafted up in that agreement. However, it's a great opportunity to find some short-term housing. knowing that there are some limited availabilities for those. You can find those sublets too on our website on that subleases tab. Overall, on the next slide, we have factors that affect those rental prices or rental prices in the near campus area. One being location. Typically, the closer that you are to the to campus or to very high traffic areas with a lot going on, the price is going to be a bit higher. The age of property, so a newer property or rental that you're looking at, is typically going to be a bit higher priced. The size as well. So if you're having, if you're looking at a studio apartment or a 1-bedroom apartment, you may be paying a little bit more than if you're looking at like a 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom apartment and you have 3 or 4 roommates to move into that unit with you. The price per person based on the number of occupants is going to help bring that price down a little bit and maybe make it a little bit more manageable depending on what your budget is. As mentioned about lease lengths before, if you do find a shorter lease with a shorter lease length, you may be paying a little bit of a premium per month on top of that. There's some more administrative costs that come to the property manager if they're leasing their apartment more frequently within the same year. So you might be paying a premium per month on top of that. Also knowing if utilities are included in the listed and advertised rent amount. So that's your heat, your electricity, water and sewage, even cable and internet, whether that's included or not, because that's really going to affect the price of the rent. And if it's a newer building or a newer home or just rental in general, it might be a bit more energy efficient. So if you are paying for utilities, that may be a little bit less if that's not included in the rent. But if you're looking at an older home that doesn't include utilities in the rental price, especially in the cold winters here, the utilities could be fairly expensive just based on our cold winters and the heating bills and other options that would be out there if it was a newer unit. Also if parking's included or not. So a lot of times rentals near campus or downtown isn't going to include parking. So if you do have a vehicle or you plan to have a vehicle, take that into account. And then price can also be affected by just additional amenities that are offered. So does it have a gym? Does it have study spaces? Just the property and the apartment complex overall? Does it have social areas? Does it have events that are going on? Those are for property that's going to have those things, those additional amenities, is probably going to cost a little bit more. On the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about finding roommates. If you're in the search for roommates, we have a really great resource. We have a roommates tab on our website. You can log in that with your net ID, and you have to use your net ID to log onto there. You can connect with others. You can post on it, just a short bio about yourself. You can answer some questions that are on there, and then others can just email you through the site if they think that that might be a good connection for meeting a roommate with, and you can learn a little bit more about the person that way, or maybe just meet up and get to know them before deciding if you want to live together or not. You don't have to post on the roommates page to use it. You can just scroll through and look at others who posted and reach out to those to connect with them. And mainly that's just connecting through the email button there that'll generate an email from your wisc.edu email address. Some overall tips on the next slide are just tips for when you're searching for housing overall. So whether you're looking now or coming up here soon for next year's housing, if you're planning to have roommates, really make sure you're all on the same page and collaborate with each other to list those priorities that are the top priorities, the things that you feel like you can't change. They're really set. And make sure that just everybody knows what to expect when they're researching and looking for options out there. As you're researching and looking through those variety of housing options I mentioned earlier, make sure that you do tour the units that you're interested in. Make sure you're going there in person to look at them, to tour them. Make sure that even if there is maybe a model unit available, ask to look at the actual unit that you would be living in as well. Floor plans can slightly change, amenities can slightly change based on the unit compared to the models. The models can give great ideas for like furniture and other things and how you might set up the apartment once you're in it. But make sure that you also ask to tour the actual unit itself. And make sure that all potential roommates that would be living in that unit tour or living there tour the unit with you, just so that there's no surprises when it comes to like move-in day or any questions when it comes to signing the lease and moving forward with having that lease set and that lease signed. On the next slide, I'll talk a little bit, this should maybe just more appropriately say just transportation overall. So if, as we're talking about off-campus housing, it may be assumed, like I mentioned before, that it's pretty far away from campus. It may not be. It just means that it's owned by a private property manager. So it might be very walkable. Your Madison bus pass or the Madison bus routes that you use, or the UW bus routes that you have access to and can just step onto, those are going to pass a lot of off-campus properties that you may be interested in living in. And within tuition fees too, students receive those Madison bus passes that can take you a little bit further away from campus. I believe they have set up for those typically the beginning of the semester in the student unions. If you have a vehicle or plan to have a vehicle, there are some parking options, even though a lot of the rentals don't maybe include them in rent. They might have some availability on their property to rent parking in addition for an additional fee per month. The city of Madison has a parking permit application that you could also fill out that allows you to park in any 48-hour parking spot, or I'm sorry, every 2-hour parking spot for up to 48 hours before having to move your vehicle. That's just dependent on your address where you would be living and a few other factors, whether you get approved for that. And then you could also rent just privately owned spaces from other landlords or property managers. On our site, we do have a parking tab that has a map and a list of those parking that's available. And that's kind of a breakdown there of just what the price of those may be. I also want to touch on the next slide just about some resources that are good to know of when living off campus. One is just renter's insurance overall. At our office, we have a great partnership with American Family Insurance. UW-Madison students can save 5% on their renter's insurance by going through American Family Insurance. What renter's insurance does is it covers your personal items within the unit that you're living. You have a policy on those items. If any damage occurs to them, you could file through that policy to be reimbursed for those. It also may cover some of your valuables when you're not in your apartment yourself. Maybe you're at the library, just depending on the policy. The price of renter's insurance is fairly reasonable for myself. When I was renting, it was about $120 for the year for renter's insurance. And a lot of property owners and landlords are going to require renter's insurance if you sign a lease with them. The second is safety, just knowing UW Police Department, and on their website, they have some great information when it comes to fire prevention and some fire codes and just some tips and fire safety tips and prevention on there. So I recommend going onto their site and just using that. It's great to note those things before touring a unit and before signing a lease as well. And then the Tenant Resource Center, they are a nonprofit in the Madison and the Dane County area. They have a great relationship with the university and help many UW students when it comes to rental rights. So they can help with reviewing leases, questions that you have about leases or just rental rights in general, landlord or roommate disputes they can also help with. I think we have a little bit more information about them coming up too. And then Madison Gas and Electric, they are the utilities provider for the off-campus housing properties. They have a great calculator on their website. So if your property that you're interested in or rental that you're interested in does not include the utilities, you can go to that tool, you can type in the specific address, and it'll give you a breakdown of what the monthly utilities cost on average is for that address. So it can just help with your budgeting and figuring out those things when you're comparing some options. And when you're living off campus as well, there's a number of just different meal options overall. You can use the dining halls. The dining halls you can use with either credit card, debit card, or you can use your WIS card and save a little bit by loading money onto your WIS card and using them in that way. You wouldn't have a specific meal plan option for those dining halls, but you can still use that WIS card. And then there's also a number of grocery stores like Fresh Market Madison, and even as you go just a little bit further out towards like Hilldale, there's a Target and a SunTree Metcalf's over there. Just a number of very accessible and commutable grocery shopping options as well. There is an off-campus private company called the Red Card Meal Plan. They have partnerships with a number of restaurants and convenience stores in the near campus area. They offer some discounts, and it acts as like a reloadable debit card where the money that's on there can just be used at those restaurants. Sometimes they do buy one, get one free. They have other coupons, and it's just a nice way for budgeting. If you load money onto that per month, you just know that it's going towards those. It's just going towards meals and food. That is the information that I just have for you today. I'm happy to answer any questions that may come up. I'm sure there's things outside of what I discussed that you may have questions on. So our office can be contacted too by phone. The phone number there is on the screen. Otherwise, email campusareahousing@uwmad.wisc.edu. We are next week on Tuesday hosting the Campus Area Housing Student Housing Fair. That's going to be in Varsity Hall in Union South. That's the second floor of Union South from 3 to 6 p.m. That's October 11th. That's the Tuesday. So stop by. We'll have a number of property managers showing off their rentals that they have. Abby and LZ Management, Grand Central and XO1 will also be there, as well as just some campus partners talking about some programs that they offer and services to help you stay connected even when you're living off campus.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. I believe that leads us into Abby's presentation.
Awesome. Let me see if I can try to blur my screen a little because I'm just sitting in our office, but yeah. Cool. Well, thanks. And thank you, Joe, for all that comprehensive information about leasing and everything. You took a bunch of the things that I was going to say, which thank you, because I'm trying to save my voice. So I am the director of marketing and leasing for LZ Management, and two of our properties are on campus. You might recognize them. You might have walked past them. Grand Central is going to be on West Johnson and East Mills. So it's right across from the chemistry building and the educational sciences building. And XO1 is going to be just kitty corner right across from Granger and Lathrop. So right on the corner of University and Brooks. Sorry, I get them mixed up a little bit sometimes. So we every year, so we started leasing today, and we have open house again tomorrow from 2 to 5 p.m. We don't ever schedule with appointments. You can just stop by. And Allison, if you want to go to the next slide, you could. That would be great. Thank you. Okay, cool. So I just threw together some things that like we hear a lot of questions about. So as Joe said, a lot of places start leasing in early October, but please don't be worried that you will be homeless if you're not ready to go right away. It might be typically what we've noticed is that the properties that are closest to campus fill up quickly. And then you get a little bit further off of campus and you have a much more peaceful leasing experience, I would say. So just a few questions to consider. One of the big questions we're getting right now is what's the difference between a joint and an individual lease? Some places do joint leases, some places do individual leases. There are pros and cons to both. We at Grand Central and XO1 do joint leases, and anyone who doesn't meet our income, housing, and credit background requirements is going to be required to have a cosigner. Cosigners are typically people. Typically we see parents, but usually they're like a family member who can guarantee the financial obligations of the lease. So that means if someone doesn't pay their rent, technically everyone who's on the lease is still liable for that. But because they have the protection of the cosigner would be that protection there. Individual leases are starting to be more common down here. I would say the benefit to an individual lease is the exact opposite, is that you don't have to worry if someone else doesn't pay their portion of rent, it's not going to affect you. The downside to those individual leases is you don't necessarily always get to choose who's going to be in the unit with you. So that's something definitely to consider. And as Joe said, what's included in the rent, what other payments are required. This is a super important thing to pay attention to, because you're going to have internet will be something that some places include, some places don't. And if they don't include it, it's important to understand how long is it going to take for the internet to get set up. it's all dependent on how quickly the text can get to you. So there are some places that it might take 3 weeks after you move in to get your internet installed. Whereas places that include it, you're going to just move in and have it ready to go. Other payments that could be required, we at Grand Central and XO1, we do all inclusive pricing. So we include everything. We include gas, electric, internet, all the use of the amenities. As Joe was talking about, some places have amenities. We do events, we have the study lounges, we have Java Den, but other places will do an amenities fee. Other places, it just kind of depends. So it's really important, as Joe was saying, to make sure you read the lease and understand it beforehand. I can only speak for how we run things, but I can tell you our entire team gets very nervous when people have not even come to the property and want to sign a lease. It's in everybody's benefit to just be on the same page of what is going on. So please do not ever be afraid to ask questions about a lease. If some wording doesn't make sense or you want to understand what that all entails, our staff, our job is to just explain it to you. And typically what we see is most of the quote unquote rules that we have in the leases are really just to make sure that the building itself is a comfortable and safe community place to live in. So yeah. One that we get a lot, and I feel like it's probably just because we're so close to campus. Where is the property located? I always encourage people to think about that. How long is it going to take you to get to class? How are you going to get to class? Can you walk? Do you need to take the bus? Are you going to have to call Uber if it's really cold? That kind of stuff. On-site management and or maintenance. I think this point is particularly important for international students. But for any students too, because I can speak from my own experience as a student here that like sometimes things will break and I don't know how to fix them. So it's important to understand, does your management company have on-site maintenance? Do they have 24-hour maintenance? What if there's a leak at 2 in the morning? What do I do if my bathroom starts to flood? Those are all things you want to make sure you know who the people to contact are, what to expect, how long maintenance requests are going to take to get fixed, that kind of thing. Sublets and breaches, Joe kind of touched on those too. We don't, to be quite honest, we don't typically see very many breaches on campus. We see a lot more sublets, and I'm happy to answer questions about sublets as well. But to be honest with you, we send people exactly to where Joe was suggesting on campus area housing if they're looking. And sorry, our phones have been ringing and I tried to turn the volume off, but I guess I didn't. Just 1 second. I'm so sorry. I'm not sure how to turn the phone off. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, we see sublets a lot of times just because we do the 12-month leases. We see sublets because a lot of people don't spend the summer in Madison. And so we send them to campus area housing. We also suggest using rentcollegepads.com. A lot of people have had a lot of success in the past with different student Facebook groups, that kind of thing. The advice we always give for sublets are the sooner you know, the better. The sooner you can get it, post it out there and looking to fill, the better. And then amenities, I kind of touched on that already. How many people will I live with? Roommate matching. Joe kind of touched on those as well. So I don't have too much to add, but those are all important things to consider. So yeah, that's kind of what I have, but I'm available and I'm happy to answer any questions people have.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you very much for that great presentation. Thank you very much to all of our presenters and panelists for that great information. We do have another panelist or presenter who was unable to make it today. That is the Tenant Resource Center. The Tenant Resource Center is a nonprofit organization in Madison and Dane County, and they provide education about rental rights and responsibilities, as well as providing access to conflict resolution and other services. So the university works with the Tenant Resource Center often. I know Joe has mentioned the Tenant Resource Center. Since they are not able to be here in person today, they asked me to share some of their information with everyone. These are some of the services that are offered by the Tenant Resource Center. They are available in both English and Spanish. So they do provide housing counseling, So what that means is being able to share information to tenants or people who are looking to rent, what their rights are, what their responsibilities are as tenants, what leases are, the different information included on leases, how to go about signing a lease, good things to know, if they need help understanding a lease. That is a service that is offered by the Tenant Resource Center. They also offer mediation resources. So like I mentioned, conflict resolution. So if there are disputes between landlords and tenants, issues that arise that do not need to necessarily go to any further into lawyer territory, these mediation services are really important and should definitely be used first. And sometimes that is miscommunication with understanding leases or your rental rights. So definitely take advantage of these if something were to come up. Obviously, we hope there is no eviction issues in your future. But if there are, the Tenant Resource Center does offer referrals to free legal representation. And also will help you find support and help you find housing, temporary housing, as much as possible during that time. They also do have health and housing information and services. So they do have case management for up to 24 months for tenants who are referred to the Tenant Resource Center through a partnership with UW-Madison. They also do a lot of great resources and education about how to prevent eviction, or which is the breach of your lease or having to be kicked out of your residence. So if that were ever to be an option, if that were ever to be on the table for you, they do a lot of information about how to prevent that assistance if that is something that were to come up. Hopefully it won't, but those are all services that are offered by the Tenant Resource Center. Like I mentioned, they are a nonprofit organization, so they're really here to serve as a resource for you as someone looking to rent, looking to sign a lease. They are here for you. They are an information center. So please definitely utilize their services. They are a really great partner with the university. So in essence, they want you to be able to know your rights as somebody who is a tenant or someone who is leasing or renting somewhere off campus. And they do provide all of those free resources and assistance. So do not be afraid to reach out if you have any questions with this process. If you have any questions about, is this normal for a landlord to be asking me for these types of questions or documents? If you have questions like that, please contact the Tenant Resource Center. So as it says on the screen, you can call the Tenant Resource Center. They do have phone services in Spanish as well. You can email them, and they do also have a campus office located on East Campus Mall, right by the Walgreens, or if you know where University Health Services is, it is on the 3rd floor there in the Student Activity Center. So you can walk in during their office hours. They do not have those set yet. They do also have a main office on Williamson Street that you are able to walk in and talk to someone in person if that is something that you are interested in. So with that, we wanted to open it up to see if anybody had any questions for any of our panelists. I wanted to mention again, my name is Allison. I'm the transitions coordinator at International Student Services. And part of my job is to help students, particularly new students, but really any students navigate different parts of their college experience, those transition periods. So if you are moving onto campus for the first time, if you are moving from on-campus housing to off-campus housing, if you are just simply moving or switching leases, those are all things that kind of fall under my job description. So I can help connect you with resources such as all these wonderful people here further resources, things of that nature. So please use me as a resource as well. And we will open it up to any questions that any students may have. I see that we do have some questions in the chat. So let me just read through quick. It looks like one of them's already been answered by Abby. So the open house for LZ management is from 2 to 5 every weekday. So that is for, again, Grand Central or XO1 apartments. Is there anything else that anybody wants to talk about? Please feel free to put your questions in the chat. We do have some people in person as well, so feel free to let me know if you have any questions. And then if panelists don't mind, if you have contact information that you would like to share in the chat, please feel free to do so now. If students have any other questions or follow-up questions, I will also put my email in the chat so students can contact me as well. But if we don't have any other questions, I think we can probably wrap up. I'll give everyone a few minutes just in case they're typing things in the chat. But I really appreciate everybody's time for being here today. I know that navigating housing can be very complicated. I was a student here for about 5 years. I lived in on-campus housing and off-campus housing. And I remember how difficult it was for me to understand my first lease, to kind of navigate that process, how surprised I was at the housing timeline, and kind of having to already think a year ahead of time during the fall semester. So please utilize all of these people, their resources, their websites. Please utilize me and the ISS office if you have additional questions. So I'm looking in the chat. I do not see any questions. Thank you for putting your contact information in here. I will add mine as well. Did you have any questions? Okay, wonderful. So I don't think anybody else has any questions, so we will wrap this up. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the event, this session is recorded and it will be posted on the International Student Services Office website. So please feel free to refer your friends to that video once it goes up if they have any questions, or refer your friends to these individuals if they have questions about anything in particular. Thank you all for being here. Thank you very, very much to all of our wonderful panelists. And you are free to go. We'll wrap up a little bit early. So thank you, everyone.